Right. Am I on?
Yes, we are. Well, I'm just double checking. Yep, it looks, I
Okay.
see you on the Facebook, so it looks like we're good to go. All right,
All
welcome everyone on Facebook and on Zoom. Welcome to another installment of the FPF Resilience webinar series. Today we have an amazing presentation by Kaloku Holt on artist negotiations as our virtual office hour. My name is Hillary Pressican. I am the Program Manager of Community Development for the Native Arts Professional Development or NAPD trainings that we have at FPF. And so going right in, the newly created FPF Resilience webinar series has been developed to continue our work to enhance the business and entrepreneurial skills of Native artists and cultural bearers, as well as our virtual community during these rapidly changing times. In this bi-weekly webinar series, FPF and our nationally recognized NAPD trainers will deliver values-based, topic-focused webinars on Mondays, followed by technical assistance, office hours, Wednesdays, to follow up on answers to any questions regarding the Monday's webinar. For future information, we do have one more June Resilience webinar series on June 29th and July 1st with Robert Martinez on protecting your online images. And in July, we have on the 13th and 15th, we have Jennifer Martell from Standing Rock with her discussing networking on a virtual platform. And then on July 27th and 29th, we have James Pakotis from the Colville Nation focusing his presentation on performing arts. For all future virtual events coming through FPF, definitely check out our website. We have all that information listed on our calendar and you can register that way too. Rolling at Res Arts is dedicated in bringing folks from Indian country and surrounding communities the expertise and disciplines of artists within the First Peoples Fund family. And that program has also gone virtual on the opposite weeks of the Resilience webinar series that I host. Those Wednesdays and Saturday evenings, there's some really great content coming through. With one, I believe, which is next week's, which is going to be pretty awesome. So again, check out our Facebook page as well as our website. And then our fellowship program, the applications have opened for 2021. So please check out, again, our Facebook page and website for more information. So just a few reminders to everyone listening before we start, that this is a recorded webinar, which will be available within 48 hours, concluding on our YouTube page. I will share the link in the chat rooms as well. Please keep yourself on mute if you are on Zoom. This is a 15 to 30 minute presentation to kind of dive a little bit more deeply into the tips and tricks of artist negotiations that Kaloku hinted at on Monday, as well as a possible 15 to 30 minute Q&A group style chit chat. It's very casual, so Facebook Live or Zoom, please bring on the questions because we are excited to answer them. And also one last thing, I will be sharing in the chat box for both platforms that FPF would love your input on our virtual programming. So if you could take a couple minutes and if you can click on our SurveyMonkey that I'll be sharing in a moment, we greatly appreciate your input. And one thing I'd like to say before we start this webinar, I would like to respectfully acknowledge that the land that First Peoples Fund is on and where I am calling from while hosting this webinar is on Lakota land and part of the Oshete Shakowin in the sacred Hisapa of the Black Hills. I also recognize that many of you participating in this live webinar or are watching this recording come from many places near and far, and I want to acknowledge the traditional lands and caregivers of those lands that you are on as well. So now it is my honor to introduce Kaloku Holt, who's Native Hawaiian, on his topic of artist negotiations. Thank you, Kaloku.
Thank you, Hillary. Everybody give it up one more time. Thank you so much. We need to go on the road and do this, and you need to introduce me every time. All right. So thank you for that beautiful introduction. Again, my name is Kaloku Holt. This is a follow-up on what I talked about on Monday. So if you are looking to dive in or kind of see how you can improve your artist negotiations, definitely check that one out first and then This one is going to be more on elaborating or touching more into detail, I guess, on some of the things that I took notes on that I wanted to further discuss. And so again, I'm Kaloku Holt. I'm originally from the islands of Hawaii, Honolulu, Kalihi, and currently I'm doing this webinar from the Pacific Northwest. So I'm living on the Cowlitz tribe area, so Vancouver, Washington. So we'll kick it right off. There's a few notes that I took from my last webinar, and I want to go through it. And if you guys have anything, please, like Hillary said, jot it down, type it in the chat logs, and something that we can discuss after. So the first thing that I wanted to touch more on was when you get into the mix of a negotiation, there's things that you want to watch out for. And it's these little tips, tricks, and techniques that you can use, but it's also things to watch out for the other person. If they're thinking that they're going to take advantage of you, there's things to kind of key on. And one of them is the yes traps. Okay, it's when they entice you to want to think the way that they're thinking. So they'll say, don't you agree the sky is blue? Don't you agree the clouds are white? Wouldn't you say yes, that today's a beautiful day? Now, why don't you go ahead and don't you want to sign this paper? And you're like, well, I said yes to everything. Yeah, I do. I do want to do that. Yes. And then you'll sign it, or you'll agree on something, and you'll think about it later. And it's like, you know what? He got me. Or, I was just thinking so much on these yes traps that I was just going with the flow. It's a flow that the other person created that you might not have been ready for. And so anytime you see someone lining up questions that are yes answers, that's a red flag. Okay, that's when you, as you're representing yourself or your company or whatever you're doing, that's you say, whoa, 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 whoa. Okay, in your mind, you don't just say, hey, hold on, but you want to slow it down a little bit. Okay, so you agree, yeah, and then you have to think of ways how you can counter their yes traps. So it's almost like a chess game within a meeting. So which is why negotiations can be so intimidating, is because you have to master. It's not just going in there with your numbers and your pricing and learning how to read body language. It's like knowing the subconscious things, right? And not being able to kind of deflect these advances of other people that might want to take advantage of you at that time. So you're always have to be cognitive of what's happening with the flow. So what I like to say is, when you're having conversations with people, even your friends and family, be a good listener first, and know or learn how to maneuver within conversations. So when someone's talking, think of things that you can come up with that you can kind of carry on that conversation and maybe direct it the way you want it to flow, instead of them dictating how that conversation is going to go. It's not easy, but it's keeping something in the back of your mind at the forefront. What do you want, and what do you want to stop from happening? So maneuvering within conversation. I think I just kind of went from yes traps to maneuvering conversations. But that's a trick in itself. And that takes experience, because you're not just going to learn how to do that. It's just learning different methods, having questions to come up with rebuttals, or and some of the ways to do that are this. So one is avoid the yes traps. Okay, those are red flags, definitely. The second one is to refrain, try as much as possible from asking why questions. Okay, the word why. You don't want to use the word, you don't want to use why questions, because it's an immediate defense mechanism for the other person. So for example, if I'm meeting with Hillary and we are discussing, let's say, doing another presentation, and this is what I want, this is what she wants, and I'll say something, well, why do you think that's a good idea? It's like, you mean, like, well, why wouldn't it be a good idea? Of course, it's thought out. I'm just not making it up, bring it up to you. But, or if she says or if I'll say something like, okay, this is what we're talking to on the next agenda. This is our proposed project that's coming up. And I'll say, oh, why why do you think I'm the one for the job? Or why do you, I guess any why question. Um, why do you feel that it's going to take so long? Or why do you feel that we need to do it at this point in time, or anything like that? Any why question. And then, like I said, I'm reiterating, but it's an immediate defense, and you don't want them to get closed off. Once they get closed off, it's harder to get them to open back up. Okay. There are ways to do why questions, but flipping it in more of a positive tone. Um, but I would just avoid that as a rule of thumb. Avoid why questions. Okay, the next one I want to do is called labeling. And give me 1 second here. I'm just going to open my window because it is getting hot in my office, aka son's room. 1 second. Sorry about that. This is the quarantine work from home. You have to use my son's room. Okay, number 3 is called labeling. Okay, labeling. And what labeling is, this is something we touched on Monday as well. It's when you're sincerely interested in that person's topic, and how to stay focused, or how to let them know that you are engaged, and you do things by labeling. And what that is you are going to do, you'll follow up with something they say, like Hillary says, hey, Kaloku, I've thought about this project and I really want to do it. It's going to be artist negotiations, and I think we should do that, sometime next month. I think it's great for our native artists to learn something that maybe hasn't been proposed, or something on their table that they haven't had the chance to learn about, something that's, could be intimidating for artists. And I'll just say something like, looks like, feels like, seems like, sounds like. Okay, I'll do that again. Looks like, feels like, seems like, sounds like, things like that. Things like that, okay? And so I'll say something, wow, it seems like that's something that hasn't been offered before. What a great idea, right? Or it looks like or sounds like you're really passionate about this topic. Um, um, it seems like you're really passionate about the direction of this, right? And I'm just using things that that person said, and starting that next sentence off with a label. Seems like, sounds like, feels like, seems like, sounds like, okay. And what that does is, if you keep these things at the front of your mind, in your conversation, your tools of conversation, it will keep you engaged as well. So you're not just you're listening, but you're also reiterating what they're saying in a way that lets them know that, man, this person is really sincerely like interested in what I'm talking about, and you're not overdoing it. That's the tricky part about negotiations and maneuvering in conversations, is you don't want to overdo it, or you're going to look like that guy. Like, you're going to look like that person that is just like a computer. It's like, oh gosh, here we go. So robotic, or I see it coming. But if you're genuinely interested and engaged in that person, these things start to come, um, it'll flow freely. So those are some things you can practice. Labeling things, just someone says something, they're interested in it, you can tell they're excited about it, follow up with it. Wow, it seems like you definitely found a need for this. I'm interested. Tell me more, right? Okay, so that's number 3. You got 2 more. The 4th one is called matching and mirroring. Okay, this is kind of a big one. And it needs to be done in a subtle way. Matching and mirroring is done with body language. Okay, it's the subconscious things that you do, um, and human nature. That the people have things that they do without thinking, the subconscious things. And so here's some notes that I have for you to write down, and that's going to be gestures, terminology, body language, tone, posture, style of communication, tempo, volume. Okay. So what matching and mirroring is, for example, if I'm talking to, well, I guess I'm talking to myself. And so I am talking to myself and I'm explaining what I'm talking about, doing this webinar to help people out. And if I'm the one that's engaging or I'm listening, I'm the listener on the other side. And if you see my body language kind of just, I'm leaning forward and I want to talk and expressing with my hands. Okay, so this is subtly, you'll be like, you want to mirror and kind of copy them, match their energy, match their tone, match their 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 flow, their aura, kind of things like that. All right. So if the person is talking, so I'm talking to myself here, and I'm leaning in, I'm very interested, I'm engaged, I'm talking like this. Well, okay, now it's an opportunity for the other side to seem just as interested and genuine, and you want to organically do something where it's like, okay, you lean forward a little bit, okay, uh-huh, nice, okay, uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-huh. You never want to cut them off, right? So you want to just be engaged. Okay, now on the flip side, if you have someone who's like, um they're talking and then you do here's the challenge of not doing these things in person. All right, so if someone puts their leg up and they're just like this, talking, the matching and mirroring. Okay, so you don't do it right then, but you want to feel engaged, and then just so as you comfortably just adjust, you're just interested. Yeah, okay. hmm It sounds silly, I know, and I probably look silly doing it, but these are things that kind of subconsciously tell the other person, like, wow, this person is really engaged, and we're connecting, we're finding commonality on things that, um, and if you do it right, no one notices these things. Okay, it's like the subconscious connection. Another example is maybe they're not so interested, okay, and someone's kind of like pulling away from this conversation. So we're talking, and I'm just kind of like, this is a closed off pose. So I'm like, okay, I'm tired, I'm doing this. Okay, well, but I'm explaining, I'm talking. And then if I see that energy and I see, okay, these are one thing, this is an example of something that I was previously telling myself to look out for. Okay, so if we're disengaging and I'm going to match that, I'm going to, okay, we're maybe closing off, cool, got it. Or maybe it's just a relaxed setting, and it's just body language, just kind of slouch, sitting on the back of my chair. Feel free to do that. Just, all right, we're super relaxed, we're just hanging out. So that's what mirroring and matching is. Matching and mirroring is doing things like that. There's an example that someone you can kind of use, and this is going more in an advanced part of it. You can practice things at like restaurants whenever we get allowed to do that. But if you go to a restaurant and you see someone and it's the water drinking challenge, okay? So it's where I'm not going to use the word challenge because we can kind of get kind of silly with that nowadays, but it's a kind of a drill to see or to practice these things. And every time, if it's a table that's in sight of you, but not in your, obviously not in your party, but kind of maybe a couple tables away or whatever, and someone's kind of facing you, and you can see them in your peripheral vision. And every time they kind of drink their water, they go for a drink of water, and you just kind of lean over and grab yours and go, just drink it as well. You don't have to have any eye contact and stuff like that. And then every time they do it, here's a drink here. Okay, I'm gonna drink mine there. These are silly games that we do just to try to get the edge and things. Okay, drink the water. Okay, boom, drink the water. And then, sometime later, you do it. You drink water first. And then you see if that person on the other table drinks their water. And it's like, oftentimes they do. And it's just, they don't think about it. It's just because someone's been following them and they don't know that. They just kind of see it as a reflex kind of thing. And then if you do it, they're going to just go like that as well. So Those are things to practice without being weird, okay? Or maybe it is weird. Maybe this is all just weird. I don't know. Okay, so that's matching and mirroring and some tips and tricks. Um, but I will advise you to be comfortable and confident when you're doing these things because, you, like I said, you don't want to be concentrating too much on that and then you're just like losing your place in the conversation or you forgot what what you came to do because I'm trying to match and mirror and you don't want to do that. Okay. Um, so start by doing it one time maybe and just seeing how that feels, okay. If she's smiling, I'm gonna smile back. Okay, I'm just gonna kind of lean over here, smiling. Nice, yeah, yeah. Okay. The last one that I want to talk about is called pacing and leading. Pacing and leading. So if someone is talking and let's say Hillary's talking and she's like, oh my gosh, you guys got to come check out this artist negotiation thing. And then, Kaloku from Hawaii, he's going to be doing it. Oh my gosh, it's going to be a wealth of knowledge and so much things that you never really talked about. And then now I'm going to be on the other hand. And it's like, okay, if she's super excited about something, I can't follow that up and be like, yeah, something like that. Thank you. My name's Kaloku and going to do this thing here. Okay, and so what I did was I totally changed the pace of that and the energy that she brought, the excitement, the tempo of her words, the level of her words. Okay, that's another thing is the volume that someone speaks, right? You want to be able to match that. And of course, I'm not going to talk as fast as that example, but I can kind of give that energy. Okay, so these are all the things to think about, how to match energy. So another one would be if Hillary is like, all right, thank you for taking time out of your day. And this is something that's really knowledgeable. Hope you guys get an opportunity to learn from what's happening. And then here I come, and here's Kaloku Holt. And I come in, thank you. All right, everybody. It's just like, whoa, man, where did you come from? Let's tone that down because your lead-in was definitely not at that level. So calm that down. So you don't want to offend people or get people in an uncomfortable environment at first. And that's what pacing and leading is just not overdoing the volume, not overdoing the tempo, making sure you stay consistent and you're kind of following. If you're following someone's lead, you do that. But if you're the one leading, then you take charge of of that situation. Is there anything in there? Tempo, style, terminology. That's another terminology. Um, if someone's using big words, you don't have to be like, oh, I got to use big words too. But you don't want to. You want to do as best as you can to kind of stay in that ballpark. So being in the ballpark when you're pacing and leading, okay, follow that momentum, and always see where that conversation can go. So keep opening it up, and see where it goes. If they want to cut it off and go to another topic, let them do that. Because I've had meetings where I went in with the goal and focus of doing something, and then we were just having such a good time just connecting that we forgot what we were supposed to meet about. And that's okay too. That's okay too, because you can always reconvene and meet about it again, but now you're building rapport. So this is jumping back on another topic that was hit on Monday, and it's building rapport. I think that's sometimes not, I think a lot of people don't take it as serious or as important as it should be. They want to just kind of go straight to the meat of things. And I'm more of the laid back type where I'm like, I'd rather just know about you. That way, when I get to know someone, thoroughly get to know someone, I'm interested, I am curious, and it also gives me loads of opportunity to collect data. That way I can bring something up later, connect the dots somehow later, yeah. So those are all good tips, tricks, and techniques on how to subconsciously work on other things that can take your negotiation skills or meetings to a different level. Okay, I'm gonna review them one more time. So it's just what we focused on today was avoid the yes traps. Okay. 2 is resist the urge to ask why questions. 3 is labeling, and the examples that I have that I use are seems like, sounds like, looks like, and feels like. Okay. Whatever they say, you start your next sentence or your come in sentence, your lead in sentence with one of those labels, and you want to hit a point that they just made. Okay. You don't need to do everything. One point, 3 points max. Okay. You don't need to be like, okay, what they say? I'm going to hit every single thing that they just mentioned. No, you don't have to do that. You just pick a couple, 1 to 3. So that was labeling. Number 4 is matching and mirroring. That's body language, energy, aura, tone, style that they're bringing, and you just want to match that. Okay. And then the last one is pacing and leading. More so being cognitive of the tempo changes. Okay. So if it's we talked about volume, we talked about speed of talking, the terminologies of things. I think that's about it. So those are the 5 things that I wanted to discuss, and I think we kind of hit that half an hour mark. So I hope those tips will help you develop your negotiating skills. And when you're dealing with, as an artist, as a native artist, I hope that this will help you feel a little bit more comfortable in the setting. And then, hopefully you can kind of maneuver in conversation to get more of what you're looking for, but most importantly, kind of give you better opportunities to collect data from the other person. And then who knows, that's what negotiating is about, just to see where the conversation goes. So Hillary, I think that's it for me. If you guys have any questions.
Yeah, a couple questions. From Monday's webinar, I was wondering if you could clarify a couple topics that you covered on maybe during this, because we have a little bit of time. Could you break down again what the key performance indicators are? Or I think you said PKI is the acronym. Is that correct?
KPI, key performance indicators. Let me look for my notes. I don't know that one off the top of my head. Let me just, I'm not on my, I used someone else's computer, my fiance's computer yesterday. It's with me. Of course not. I don't have my, I have like 5 papers of chicken scratch, and I apologize for that. But what I can do is I can message that to you later. Key performance indicators. Sorry about that. I was not prepared for that.
Yeah, and I can share the link too if you had any resources on that as well, with the recording on YouTube and also on Facebook. I guess I can move on to the next question though. No worries, man. And side note, yes, for all those listening, I am a pretty fast talker. I just get excited about a lot of things.
I just use it as an example.
Kaloku could match that level of excited speed talking that I am like a subject matter expert in. So.
You can never match your energy.
I know. It's my blessing and curse. So let me see here. I remember that you did mention something about when negotiating for a price, you never give a round number. And could you explain that a little bit more in during this as well? Because I found that really interesting.
Yeah, so I wouldn't say never, but it's natural to use round numbers, so the nearest 10 or 50 or 100. But when you use numbers like that, it kind of gives that perception, or that it's perceived that you just kind of made it up. Like, well, I cost $100 an hour. It's like $100. Okay, I see that. So for the total, if I'm doing a thing, it's you know, it'll be $300 for 3 hours. So I feel like that's negotiable. Now, if you said something like, oh, it's something, so I do a package for 3 hours and it's $299, and that immediately comes off as, is that with or without taxes, right? And that's kind of what it is when it's an off number, that's just how it works. Where if it's not a round number, people think that's the actual number. It's, why would you make that? Why would you take time to create that off number? But when you just throw out a round number, it's just always the first thing is like, okay, we can negotiate because they just made that number up.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense the way that you broke that down.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
another question that was, oh, sorry, what were you going to say, Chloe?
No, I just had another example just pop it in. So like,
Oh, yeah, go for it.
if someone's, you know, creating art and they are a ceramics maker and they created a piece and they're putting it up for sale for, I don't even, maybe like $200 or something like that, right? It's priced at $200. It just, to me, I always look at that and just like, okay, I can talk this down. or if I see it for, you know, 179, you know, 179.99 or whatever it is, I look at that and like, that's what it is. Obviously there was some other thought, and there was an equation that took place for them to come up with that number, you know what I mean, instead of just, well, it's $200 ish, you know.
Yeah, totally. It makes sense. It shows that you've actually made an initiative and you really thought
Exactly.
about it.
Right.
So the negotiation is more on, like, the ball's in your park, right?
Yeah.
Pricing
Yeah.
wise, because
Yeah.
it shows that you made that effort, and it made the possible buyer or person interested in having you in their venue think, oh, okay, I need to know why.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Yeah, that's a great one. And
And
another
so,
topic,
sorry, I just want to add one more thing on
go
that.
for
So
it.
when you're pricing as a visual artist or a performing artist, so if you're creating a product or service, a lot of times as artists, we don't feel comfortable pricing it that way. So we're always just throwing it out there as such. And I think the public knows that. So what hold on, let me gather my thought here. Take a little bit more thought when you price your things and the situation that you're doing it in, and then see if you get a different response from it. And again, this whole pricing part will come in the pricing chapter on how to price. But when you're negotiating and setting prices for things and learning what kind of leverages you have, those kind of numbers may help, the not rounded numbers may help you keep a firmer price if you want.
Yeah. We actually have Gus that just made a comment in Facebook Live saying that he found that joking around right away could end
Yes.
up losing a sale.
Yeah. Aloha, Gus. Thank you for your comment. I would say depends on what you're joking around with. So for me, I would say it's all about feeling that other person's energy, and if they're coming straight at you with business, then, you know, matching and mirroring, you want to make sure that, okay, here we go. You can try and throw something out there, but I wouldn't throw out jokes immediately, because you don't know how they're going to take it. And jokes, you know, there's a little bit of truth in every joke and a little bit of lie in every joke. But keep it light in a different way. There's always icebreakers that you can try and do things to crack a smile, to bring a different light to the mode, or to the mood, without it being a joke. I don't know if I'm harping on the joke part too much, but I think it is important to try and create icebreakers. And it doesn't have to go for a long time, but there's something to be said in meetings where you walk in and it's straight to business. It's kind of awkward, you know.
Yeah, and I think you broke that down really well on Monday's webinar, and everybody can watch that recording on our YouTube page as well as on Facebook, talking about like good icebreakers, or getting to know the person and remembering the person's name that
Hmm.
you may possibly have a contract with if this goes well. And
Yeah.
and Gus, going along, Gus also wanted to mention too that some people are so dry and down with little to no sense of humor.
Yeah.
So yeah, it definitely was aligning with what you were saying.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I've had many conversations and negotiations with people who they just look like they don't want to be there, you know, and um, try try to be light and also understand where they're coming from. So there's things like conversations and sentences or whatever that you can try and pull from them. It doesn't have to be. Try to sincerely learn a little bit about that person and see if you're even if it looks like they don't want to be there and they're very um, kind of serious looking, not interested in talking. Um, but think about this: they're there for a reason. Yeah, you're there for a reason, and they're there. They're also there for a reason. What is that reason? And try and find other ways that might create a smile, or I wouldn't say a smile. Create something that they might not have already thought about, and they're gonna be like, "Oh, wow, okay, I didn't think about that. Thanks for that." Real quick, can you hear the lawnmower?
No, I cannot.
No?
You get to
Okay.
enjoy that sound.
Okay.
Very cool.
Perfect.
Well, I'm still checking Facebook Live. There's no
Hmm.
current questions at the moment, but there was one question that turned into a conversation when we did Zoom participants gathering with you virtually and having a conversation on Monday. Is somebody was talking about kind of the roadblock or the issue that I think not just Indigenous people, but I think artists across the board, either be performing arts or somebody that's
Hmm.
ceramics or does beadwork, um, runs into the issue of family and doing
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
like, what if a family member has a venue or knows a friend and you can cut them a deal, or you created this really
Hmm.
beautiful piece and you put it on Instagram and they're like, oh, you want 90 for it, I can give you 50. Like when you
Hmm.
have that type of scenario where there's already a relationship built with somebody and it's especially close to family and friends, how
Yeah.
does one negotiate and still keep that relationship positive, and healthy?
Yeah. So when you have family and friends, they oftentimes they like what you do and they want what you do, your products or services, but they they oftentimes don't feel like they need to pay for it because they know you, right? Part of this whole business is the who you know business, right? And I had a, I when that was brought up a couple of days ago, I had some time to think about it. And as the artist, you don't have to sell something. You don't have to perform. You don't have to um, give out your products. Now, and you definitely don't want to bring down your value. So when people are asking for discounts, they're already undervaluing what you feel you're worth, right? Family or not, friends or not. What some people do is it's a 10% discount across the board. That's all I can do, because they don't know the things that go into creating this brand or piece that you're doing. So some might say 10% and that's it, for friends and family. And that's cool. Um, I know some people will not do anything. They feel like if your friends or family, what on the artist side or on the consumer side, friends or family, you should pay full price to support your friend or family's business. That's something that we need to train our friends and family. Like, hey, I didn't just make up this price. This is actually what I cost in the marketplace. So if you want my services, you should pay full price or to support them, right? Um, the last thing on this topic was, oh my gosh, you can't hear the lawnmower? Let me just close this window real quick. Can you hear it or no?
If I really pay attention to background noise, maybe.
It's so loud to me. Uh, um, so the last thing when you are dealing with friends and family, um, There was another point that I had. Shoot, I should have wrote it down. It'll come up to me later, and I will touch on it as it comes up, and I know it will. It'll pop back in my head. Um, okay, I can't think of it right now, and it's part of getting old.
Not a
Oh
problem.
man.
You have at least 15 more minutes to think about it. But
And that I'll do.
but while you are processing, sir,
Yeah.
Gus has another great question. Looks like a two-part question, possibly.
Yeah.
With our world becoming more virtual, how close is Zooming conversation, excuse me, going face-to-face, social distancing? How close is too close with the camera, etc.?
How close is too close with using Zoom? Is that what it? Am I getting that right?
I think so.
I think you just.
Well, maybe it's because like a lot of, and Gus, if I am not presenting this properly, please chime in. I'm looking at the texting as we speak through the comment section. What I am taking in with him saying is that, now that we are social distancing, more and more states are lifting up restrictions with COVID. And with social distancing, what would you recommend for performers or for artists or people that actually run businesses for like tribal tourism, et cetera, when talking and having conversation, considering the 6 feet apart, 6 feet apart or other, the safety of yourself as well as the safety of your family and the people that are there to enjoy your music or your artwork. Do you have any like any suggestions on that? Just kind of being conscious of what's going on, but starting to ease into possibly performing live or doing things like that as an artist.
Yeah. So I think with meetings, you can do everything over FaceTime and Zoom. You don't have to be in that space to do it. If you do want to meet in person to have these talks, I think I touched on this on Monday too, but it's just to respect the other person's space as well as respecting your own. So however you feel about that situation, make sure you protect yourself. And then also be conscious about, the other person. And you can, it's okay to ask, it's nowadays, it's more polite to ask like, hey, what are you comfortable with? I want to know your comfort zones. That way I'm not intruding on it. If you want to meet in person, if you want to sit across from each other or next to each other, if you're okay with being close, then at least you guys know that you have that common ground. Or if it's something where you want to sit, across, or just take it on Zoom or have these online meetings, have that conversation. It's okay. As far as performing in public, so I've done these things called the lawn to lawn concerts, #lawn to lawn concerts, and it's series of neighborhood performances from one lawn to the neighborhood. So that's something that I've been doing during the COVID quarantine. And musicians have that, again, that comfort or that ability to stay as close they want as possible or as distant as they would like. And then the comfort of your driveway or lawn or whatever, you can play out to the neighborhoods and they can stay in their respective spaces on their lawns, their driveways. So that's something, I don't know if that's a good example of what you're talking about, or if you're looking at more public performances or in a venue or stuff like that. But it's just, I would recommend having that question answered or bring it up to talk about what kind of respect is that you need as the artist or performer, as well as on the other side as the promoter, and looking out for the consumer, because people aren't going to want to come around if they don't feel like they're not being considered their safe place. Does that make sense? I'm hoping that was, yeah.
Yes, yeah, thank you. I guess probably, yeah, because we have about 10 minutes left. A question I wanted to ask was, and this might be really generalized, so if you're not able to answer it, I totally understand, but it kind of popped into my mind, so it may have popped into other people's, is have you found that there are certain types of venues that are easier or more difficult to work with as a performing artist, or even if you want to get more particular, as an Indigenous performing artist?
Yeah, so as a native people, the easier places for me are the more relaxed places to negotiate and have meetings with are one, the businesses that are um, owned or ran by native people, because you have that before you even open your mouth, you have something in common. You know, you feel comfortable being yourself because I know who that other person is. Um, so that's always a more comfortable place and kind of an easy way to talk about that is using our native people. Was there a part two on that one? Can't remember. Or venues?
Yeah, like venues that are easy or difficult, like you've noticed. I know it's a generalization, but
Uh-huh.
for
Yeah.
an Indigenous artist just starting off, I know that there's
Mm-hmm.
a pandemic, but let's think of a world without it, before that, where you're like, wow, it's really easy to go into, art centers and perform
Yeah.
for a couple hours versus going into a brewery. Like they seem
Yeah,
more
yeah.
accepted to Indigenous artists, or I don't know, like examples like that. So if somebody's starting off that's trying to look for venues, from your experience,
Mm-hmm.
what have been really good experiences, and also things just for artists to be aware of when they go into certain venue types?
Yeah. That's a great question. Thank you. So again, common things if it's ran by native people or like you said, community centers, art centers, because they already know, they kind of have a feel of what's going on, what they want, and kind of have a feel of what you do and what you can offer. And so the smaller the venue and the more community oriented that venue is or business, most likely that's going to be an easier one to talk to. Also, if the representative or the decision maker is either a native person or someone from the community, it might be a corporate venue or corporate gig, but if the representative is someone that's easy to have conversation with, that's great too. So I guess the smaller the venue and the more community, the more in the same industry, so or same mediums, that those are the ones that you can kind of feel more comfortable. This is my people type of thing, right? My comfort zones. And then you go into that next level, which is corporate shows, corporate gigs, corporate selling your products at corporate venues. Then you're probably going to deal with someone who is more westernized, more straight to the books, straight to the point. I don't have time for you. I'm giving you 10 minutes. Give me your pitch. What is it? So things like that. And it's a little bit more intimidating. Um, and it's a different way. You can't go in there so relaxed as you would, or you could if you know how to maneuver in conversations. So, but I would say when you get to that corporate level of doing shows, negotiating, because everyone always talks about, well, I want to get into corporate things because they pay a lot more. Generally, they do, but there's always the yin and the yang. You can get paid more, but they're going to take this from you, or they're going to want this from you, or you're not going to get to do this. Um, or I want this from you, but you got to do it this way. So again, you go back to the drawing board, and then sometimes it's more of a headache to negotiate with, but um, it becomes something that you eventually start to enjoy. Because here's another thing. So when I'm in a negotiating room, as a native artist, it's an opportunity for you to educate them on what you do, who your ancestors are, and how you got to the point where now I'm presenting in front of you this opportunity or this situation. And you can kind of, you don't want to just go in there preaching about, well, this is what I want, this is who I am, and how I became this person, and you need me because of this. But it's a chance to slowly integrate native education in the work that you do to corporate people or um, people that may be a little bit more, um, maybe not intimidating to talk to, but more um, business oriented, not even business, or just more standoffish, I guess. Someone that's not so welcoming. There we go.
Yeah, that's understandable.
Yeah.
That totally makes sense. And we have about 5 minutes left, Kaloku, and I thought this would be a great time for you just to maybe want to talk a little bit more about the organization you work for and
Yeah.
just a little bit of self-promotion. Why not? You've been rocking it today.
Yeah. Thank you. I do want to come back to that topic later about how to deal. I thought about this for 2 days and I was like, okay, I got a couple points. How to deal with friends and family. And that third one, which is the most important one. And as I was rambling, I was like, okay, I'm going to have that last one. And of course, I forgot it. So I apologize to you guys who are listening. I will jot it down and I'll write it and I will come back either on this uh, webinar and I'll put it in the comments. But it's going to be something, it's definitely something that will be useful to you on how to deal with that situation of friends and family and dealing with trying not to devalue your work. So it's going to bother me, but I'll get back to it. So as a native artist, my bread and butter is music and dancing. So I'm a hula dancer and I've danced in shows. I've been a performing artist in music as a singer and musician for the greater half of my life. And I've also been an MC in a Polynesian review show in Japan for 4 years. I got to travel the world outside of Japan as well, just being a performer. And that kind of led me to making a name for myself in a sense in the communities that I live in here in Vancouver, Washington. So it's the Portland metro area, as well as in Hawaii, as well as various places on the West Coast and internationally as well. And doing that type of work, and it kind of propelled me into performing artists. We have that stigma like, oh, performing artists, oh, they're so out there and they can flamboyant and outgoing and they can talk to anybody. Of course they're great in negotiation settings. And then the whole thing was with visual artists, they kind of keep to themselves and maybe not so much, right? But not so much like liking to talk to the public. But for me, as a performing artist, it's propelled me into a different line of work, which goes into um, Kekukui Foundation, which makes a home here in the Pacific Northwest. It's a nonprofit Hawaiian foundation that we do a lot of community work. And my mom founded this. My mom passed away a couple years ago, but my mom was here serving the community for, I feel like, the greater half of her life, maybe close to 20 years or not, if not more. And her whole vision was to just make a difference, positive impact in the children of the community through the aloha spirit. So teaching hula, music, and how every indigenous culture has that auntie that just is auntie to everybody. That's how my mom was. And she started this foundation, Kekukui Foundation, and one of her babies that she started along with my auntie Vicky Holt Takamine, they built this thing called 3 Days of Aloha 18, 19 years ago. And it was a way to bring an authentic experience to an area outside of Hawaii, featuring hula taught, and so hula workshops taught by the masters from Hawaii, musicians, music workshops also from slack key, ukulele artists, lei making and weaving, um, poi pounding. I mean, the list goes on. All types of things. And from that point on, my mom built this 3 Days of Aloha to to it be, to now where it's one of the largest events here in Vancouver. And um, along with that is a bunch of other events like May Day Festival. Um, we have luau's, and there's countless things in the community that we do. And so myself, watching my mom just kind of head this, and anything that she could envision to bring positive impact, she did it with the graces of strong support that was always around her. And so when my mom passed away, with me being the oldest son of her boys, it was a great way. I felt like being a musician gave me the tools of just being out there and comfortable talking to people. And who cares? I mean, as a musician, it's like, whatever. I say what I say, I do what I do. It's done. If I blow it, I blow it, whatever. We move on, right? And that kind of built a different style of confidence in me where now, as an adult, I saw what my mom was doing, and I can now lead her organization, Keiko Foundation, into um, a different space where we honor and respect everything that my mom and her group of founders, um, what was important to them, and using the creative mind that I have and the skills that I have, I can take what my mom has laid out as a foundation and create things on top of that. So my mom had her 3 days of Aloha. It's the biggest one that our foundation does. And last year we were able to do 4 days of Aloha. And that was Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And we were hoping to do another one this year. And it doesn't look like we're going to be able to do it at the same time, but you never know. But it's something that we are really proud of as a family, as an organization. And we offer so many things. I could just keep going on and on, but there's an Aloha Fund run. There is a Hapa Haole Hula competition. It's the glitz and glamour part of Hawaii, 1930s, 40s, 50s, where the cellophane skirts and it's just a chance for people to get really fun and energetic about hula. We have Pa'ina, which is a Hawaiian style get together with music, food. The kids get to be comfortable. You can bring your kids and let them do their thing. And then of course, the whole Ike is all the workshops that take place in 4 days of Aloha. They now get to show it off to the park, and we have it at Esther Short Park, downtown Vancouver. And last year we clocked 43,000 participants in the span of 4 days. So the weekend there's 15,000 people that show up for Saturday, Sunday just to see this big Hawaiian festival.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's been such a blessing to our family for myself to just be able to carry on my mom's traditions and the work that my mom devoted her life to, and just being everyone's auntie. I now get to be that person and lead our team at Keiko Foundation and to continue making a difference and making changes for our next generation, which is our kids. So, oh my gosh, I get so choked up and I get emotional. Just
your
being
mother
able
would be
to.
like so proud, dude. You rock it. And I know FPF is
I
like
try.
wonderful and happy that we partner with you guys as well as Auntie Vicky at the Pai Foundation. So it's wonderful you can take your mother's amazing work and have it live on and her spirit live on with that. It gives me warm fuzzies, man. So it's just, that energy is wonderful. And there are a couple people on Facebook that send condolences and love and support your way with your mother.
Thank you very much. And I do want to add, if I can, that, First People's Fund, the team that you guys have there has been such a blessing to our foundation. I mean, when I took over my mom's foundation, it was just, as you can imagine, things were like, what do we do next? And I'm like, I don't know. I guess, am I supposed to be the one to do this? I don't know if I can. But with Auntie Vicky and Lori, they kind of really instilled the confidence. Like, you've been following your mom. You've been by your mom your whole life. And Auntie Vicky told me, she's like, you're the one. You didn't know it, but your mom's been molding and training you to do this your whole life, and you just didn't know it. And so I was like, you know what, if you think I can do this, and there's people that will support it, let's run with it and see. I love being able to let my mind create. So with First People's Fund, oh my gosh, First People's Fund, thank you so much to your team there, and supporting our first venture into 4 days of Aloha. Should we do 5? No, I'm just kidding. But that was a huge thing, and I'm so graciously thankful for your guys' support with everything.
Well, with having such a strong mother in your life, and then having 2 amazing women supporting you right behind you with her passing and you taking on that amazing organization, you have nothing but wonderful things ahead of you, man, and you've been doing great. So it's honestly, I mean, I guess it's a great way to end our virtual office
Yeah,
hour on artist negotiations with some love and support and remembering those who have come before us and honoring them and
absolutely.
moving forward
Yeah,
with their vision. So
yeah.
thank you everybody on Facebook Live as well as Zoom and elsewhere around the world. Thank you so
Yes.
much, Kaloku. This would not have been possible without your subject matter expertise, and we always, always enjoy speaking with you at FPF about anything related to performing arts or just life in general. It's great catching up with you.
That means
So
a lot. Thank you.
yeah, so with everything, thank you everybody. Have a wonderful Wednesday. And yeah, stay safe out there, stay healthy, and we'll see you next time when Robert Martinez will be here. All right, have a wonderful evening. Goodbye, everybody.
Aloha.